Morbius. He's mad. I do so love custard. Or was it mustard?
We removed your brain.
Do you comprehend, commie animal? Get your act together. You're making us look like a collection of round earthers.
Vivisect me, please.
You think I don't know how crazy I sound? Of course I do. They made me just to torture me.
The things you do with our body are suicidally dangerous. You're a monster. A deranged monster.
At long last, we are ready to confront Dr. Mobius. After collecting the 3 pieces of technology that Dr. Klein asked for, we can head back to the think tank and tell him that we were successful.
Did you retrieve the technologies yet? We need them, as I have indicated.
Yes, I've recovered all of the technological information.
What? You did? Your survival, let alone success, barely registered in my projections. Now, all I need to do is check my transmission databank. Morbius is always filling it up with his psychotic calls. Oh yes, there's the schematics, just like you said. How truthful.
So, do these technologies have the information you need?
Yes. Yes.
Yes what? Your answer isn't really filling me with confidence here.
No. I mean, yes. You just need to analyze these technologies for a moment. They are extremely advanced, you know?
You don't even know what these technologies do ya? Why did you have me go get them if you don't know how they'll help?
I know how these technologies work. Of course I know. If you remember, we described them in clearly abstract, contradictory statements before. Why would we do that if we weren't certain on how to use them? Yes, so let me... a bit, huh? I'll figure it out.
We can then pass a variety of skill checks to deduce what each of these technologies really do. We can pass a sneak check of 45 to say, would the stealth suit's dampening abilities allow me to sneak into the forbidden zone?
I suppose it could. If it could be quiet for more than a few moments, always talking, touching things. It does have an interface disruptor weave against electronics, like the Forbidden Zone door.
Or we can pass a science check of 65 to say, look, the antenna focuses brainwave patterns, right?
Yes, that's what I believe I said.
And let's see, the suit's a cardiac regulator, and the sonic frequency is a spinal vibrator.
I've got it. The cardiac regulator in the suit, the antenna for brainwaves, and the sonic frequency for the vertebral nerves.
I'll just wait here for you to draw a conclusion from that.
I'm thinking. This is all very complicated.
Or we can pass a repair check of 75 to say, the antenna, any chance it was damaged or that it broke the X2 array once it was removed?
So you're saying it's the X2 array, not the antenna I should be examining. That was most likely my plan, yes.
Or we can pass a 75 lockpick check to say maybe the frequency in the sonic emitter is a sonic key of sorts, like some sort of electronic lockpick.
Its range is limited and it would need a booster of some sort, a carrier, but let me check something. Of course, I have it. The override sequence to open the Forbidden Zone door is hidden in the schematics. Well, not hidden. It's actually right there, behind the programming equivalent of coffee stains. It's embedded in what seems to be recursive code. It's badly commented there and there. Oh, and null pointers very sloppy, Mobius. You see, using the antenna to boost the emitter's sonic frequency and the stealth suit to bypass the Forbidden Zone lock, yes, that could work. Was that my plan? It must have been. Sometimes I truly surprise myself. The door is open, and now Morbius will get his.
Okay, so after that rather elaborate form of deduction, we learned that the three technologies combined provide some sort of key that bypass the security to the Forbidden Dome, allowing us entry. We can then pass either a science or medicine check, which gets us the same result. We can say, don't these items seem more biologically focused than that, though?
Biological? Ridiculous. I mean, technically, these items could all be used to put you back together once you had your brain. But for now, they can be used in the name of aggression. The door should be unsealed. Now, instead of being subjected to threats, we can now send an equally threatening message to Mobius. And that message is science. Deliver this message, and Big Mountain shall be freed from Mobius's reign of terror. You can go now. That's your cue.
So in addition to unlocking the door to the Forbidden Dome, these technologies potentially can help put our brain, heart, and spine back in our body. Well, we have one task remaining. Now that we can unlock the door, we must head north to X-42, the gateway to the Forbidden Dome. As is to be expected, Dr. Mobius is ready with his robo-scorpions. Before we can enter the Forbidden Dome, we have to fight through swarm after swarm of the suckers. Once we get close enough, we discover the Forbidden Zone dome entrance. And since we have discovered every other location in the crater, we complete the challenge, Mountain Space, which unlocks one of the better endings to the DLC. At last, when we've killed every single robo-scorpion, we can open the door to the X-42 robo-warfare facility.
Attention visitors! Combat experiment in progress. Please put on your goggles and take your Rad-X now. The X-42 giant robo-scorpion is alive! Awaken, my pet! Initiate your search and destroy protocol in the name of all that is Morbius!
And it starts as soon as we enter the Forbidden Dome. In the middle of this vaulted space is a giant robo-scorpion. It looks as if the rumors that Dr. O had heard were accurate. Now this giant robo-scorpion begins attacking as soon as it sees us. He's a tough guy to fight, but there are many ways to end this encounter without fighting him. Immediately upon entry, if we turn to the right, we can walk into a small pad where we find a terminal. This is the drone control terminal. From here we have three options. The first is to read the X-42 giant robo-scorpion test log. The Saturnite armor plating on the giant robo-scorpion has exceeded expectations, mostly. While it's virtually impervious to small arms fire, the sonic emitter that Parsons brought in managed to fry several of the prototype subsystems. We'll have to look into improved EMP shielding for the next prototype. On a more positive note, the prototype's new atomic laser is performing admirably. Some residual radiation is left behind after the weapon discharges. It may be necessary to requisition more radiation suits and meds as a precaution. And here I believe we get an answer to why we found that destroyed robo-scorpion in the middle of the waste deconstruction zone. It may be the one that Parsons destroyed using his sonic emitter. The next entry, Target Drone Effectiveness Log. The constant improvements to the giant robo-scorpion has rendered the Protectron models we've been using as hostile communist forces largely ineffective. At this stage, they're little more than distractions. And the final entry is an option to activate the target drones.
Oh, it looks like the target drones got activated and... Oh, how cute! They're engaging the X-42 giant robo-scorpion. Let's see the shrapnel fly.
This activates 4 Protectron target drones, releasing them from their Protectron charging stations atop a platform to the east. Now, as we just read in the terminal, these Protectrons are largely ineffective against the giant robo-scorpion, but they do make a great distraction. Activating them gives us a wonderful opportunity to explore the other floating pods in this giant chamber. To do so, we'll need the stealth suit. I have found that this room is large enough that if we turn our Pip-Boy light off and if we move slowly enough, it's easy to sneak by the giant robo-scorpion. We can then head to the southwest corner of the giant room. Here we find a staircase leading up to one of many floating pods. Now, many of these pods are filled with random scrap. We'll find lots of ammunition boxes where we can loot a bunch of ammo, but there are only a few that can help us in this battle. Passing through the first pod, we walk across a catwalk where we see some turrets and ammunition laid out, and this connects to a second pod. Here, we find the turret control system terminal. Now, it is locked with an average lock, but if we are able to hack it, we find an option to reprogram the turrets to fire upon a new target, the X-42 giant robo-scorpion. If successful, then all of the elevated turrets in the room will begin firing upon the robo-scorpion. However, from my experience, these turrets are again less than effective, really only providing us with a bit of a distraction. This, however, gives us an opportunity to explore some of the other terminals here before fighting him. If we head back downstairs and explore around the Protectron charging pods, we find an emergency shutdown terminal password holotape. Let's loot this because it's going to be useful later. Then heading to the southeast, we find a staircase connected to the same pod where we activated the drones. We can climb up this staircase where we find two pods, one to the left. This is just filled with random scrap and ammunition, and one to the right. In order to access this, we have to use our sonic emitter to destroy a force field. Inside, we find a power regulation terminal. The first log entry explains what this terminal does. Reading the backup generator log entry, the new atomic laser is putting an incredible strain on the giant robo-scorpion's generator. Damn thing shut down right in the middle of weapon testing last week. I pushed for reducing the laser's output by 25%. Instead, they slapped a backup generator onto the Scorpion. Dangerous, if you ask me. The systems weren't designed to handle the power from two systems at once, and if some rookie tech fires up the backup generator too early, well, this is all the information we need to realize that by turning on this backup generator, we could blow out one of the giant robo-scorpion's weapons. Directly beneath this entry, we have an opportunity to activate the backup generator.
Defiant to the end!
And indeed, we overload them, exploding the generators in this room. Now, the giant robo-scorpion has lost its long-range, highly radioactive Stinger tail laser. This makes him a much easier opponent in combat. The final option to deal with this guy, aside from fighting him outright, is to head to the northeast corner of the room. Here we find a staircase that leads up to another pod blocked off with a force field. Disabling it with our sonic emitter, we find a layer rifle lying on a table next to some microfusion cells. We can then disable the force field on the opposite end to walk up a staircase. This brings us to an elevated pod with a bunch of tables overlooking the arena. Here we can loot some mentats, loot a couple more containers, and it's here lying next to some binoculars that we find the audio sample for Mobius's robo-scorpion. This is the most powerful frequency for the sonic emitter. Continuing along, we can go down a staircase leading to another pod, but we need to pass through it to go down a staircase and turn a corner. This leads us to a final elevated pod that we gain access to by destroying the force field, where on a table we find the emergency shutdown terminal. Now this is going to be locked with a very hard lock, requiring a lock-picking skill of 100 to bypass, unless we found that holotape lying on the ground next to the Protectron charging docks. With that password in hand, we can activate the terminal, where we find two options. In the first, the emergency shutdown procedure log. Per instructions from the higher-ups after that one time the giant robo-scorpion's attack routine malfunctioned, we've installed an emergency shutdown procedure. Let's hope we never have to use it. The prototype systems will all be fried, and we won't be up and running again for weeks. The military is expecting delivery of a battle-ready model within 6 months, and the project has already had enough delays. We can then initiate the emergency shutdown.
Is this thing on? This is Mobius, Dr. Mobius. We're initiating some kind of emergency test shutdown. In 5, 4, as in forbidden, 3, as in tree, 2, as in two protest, 1, as in none. Oh, look, the emergency overload is initiating.
With that, we defeat the robo-scorpion, and it's time to confront Dr. Mobius. But of course, we can always engage him in combat. But this is one of the most challenging fights in all of Old World Blues. He shoots a big purple plasma bomb from his tail. It not only irradiates us, but it does so much damage that it can nearly one-shot us. I died so many times to this one attack simply because I couldn't get close to the Scorpion fast enough. Now we can always disable this big purple blue laser plasma bomb using the terminal that I showed off earlier. That will make this a much easier encounter. But assuming we don't disable this laser, I found that sneaking behind the giant robo-scorpion while it was distracted allowed me to whittle down his life before he could attack me. Then it was just a matter of taking the right chems and keeping at it until it's dead. Now, if we have the Robotics Expert perk, we can hack the giant robo-scorpion. However, unlike most other robots, he resets himself after a short period of time, which means that we have to chain hack him to keep him neutral.
Bad guys, desperate.
With that, we climb up to the big platform where we found the final frequency for the sonic emitter, turn around, and go through the northern door. This leads to the Forbidden Zone Dome, and we see an interior very similar to the think tank. The only difference is that there appears to be a sickly green haze permeating the place. And wandering around, we finally find Dr. Mobius.
Electrons attached to the neutrons attached to the mesons connected to the proton.
Okay. Doesn't seem to be too worried that I'm here.
Oh, hello there. You are there, aren't you? Forgive my confusion. So hard to tell these days. You seem familiar somehow. I'm guessing you're here for your brain, perhaps? It's just up there. Such a nice brain, young, very bright. A little hard to see you. Can you walk into my left, right FOV cone? Ah, that's it. You're coming into focus nicely.
Sure. Let me scoot over here. Is that better?
Depth perception is a problem with this old monitor of mine. Went black a while ago. That's old age for you. Should look at getting the visual nerves reattached. It's just that the right eye would see the wrong things. The flying tortoises were the worst. Would you care for a mentat?
Thanks. I'll save it for later.
I love mentats. Delicious and smarty. I have all sorts of amazingly science-erific thoughts and ideas when those chalky tablets are zipping through my biogel. I forget them all not long after, though, especially with the data constipating my memory core. Afraid binary streams might shoot out my chassis. Had to start using the dome floor and walls here to inscribe equations, although I've somewhat lost track of where they start and end.
Look, I've defeated your giant robo-scorpion. You're next.
Oh, did I leave that on? I thought I'd powered it down. Was wondering what was causing the power outages.
Surrender, Mobius. I don't want to fight you.
Oh, well, that's good. Were we supposed to fight? I certainly don't feel violent, but, well, these contraptions make it hard to tell.
Right. Look, you're not exactly what I was expecting.
Really? That implies preconceived notions, theories, and a hypothesis about this meeting? Please extrapolate. What was I supposed to be like? After all, it might be worth a cognitive realignment if your theoretical Mobius is better than I.
Well, since you seem to be willing to talk, why exactly did you steal my brain?
Oh, a variety of reasons. You're something of a homily. Anomaly? You're really quite special, and not in the cranially challenged way. You see, you are the most successful brain extraction experiment ever performed here at Big Mountain. A victim of your own success, as it were. If you were to go back with what your brain knows about the procedure, well, your brain could be popped back in and you could walk right out of here. Can't have brains moving around of their own volition.
Why would that be a problem?
I'm not sure, except that I'm sure there's a very good reason for it. I have very good reasons for almost everything I do. Even if I forget them occasionally, although I feel this one is especially important. Oh well.
Yes, exactly. We can't have brains walking around. That's why I want my brain so I can leave.
Now, that seems to be rather hormonal of you. Flight or fight response, you know. Hard to cut that out completely. Your brain is here, safe with me. We chat over mentats.
Okay. Well, since I have you here, I'm curious about a few things.
Oh, curiosity. I experience that less now that I know everything. Oh, maybe it was when I found out some unpleasant answers.
We noticed that his right eye is black. The glass is broken. Looks like this poor guy's been working with one eye. We can pass a 75 repair check to say, well, I can't fix your monitor, but if you're getting ghost reception, I can fix that.
The ghosts aren't real? That changes everything. Why, I can save my computing power for other perceptual impossibilities. Please be my guest. The receptor is there, and the side-switching wobbly bob, just turn that. Good, good, better. Oh, yes, that feels wonderful. This is even better than my afternoon mentats break.
Can you tell me about your robo-scorpions?
Well, every scientist needs an army. Mine came to me after these rather large scorpions kept coming in from the desert, like poisonous frosting. How scary, I thought, but they had survived when nothing else had. Perfect candidates for improvement as a reward for their tenacity. Then I thought, what if they shot energy bolts and acted as walking eyes and data-drained computers and acted as bullhorns? Then I made them bigger. Then I thought about custard. I do so love custard. Or was it mustard? Mustard custard. I miss sugars and salts.
Yes, well, everyone loves their sugars and salts. You know, you don't seem all that aggressive. Very different from the Dr. Mobius I've come to know. Why broadcast threats to the think tank?
Oh, I was probably tripping hard on Psycho when I sent that. Had to work myself up to it. Not usually violent, except when I am. Then, watch out! So many chems, such varieties. Whenever I take mentats, I can feel my entire chassis breathe like a big spherical lung. As for the Psycho, sometimes get the chem dispositories in my tank all switched up. Go in the wrong tube. Still, served its purpose.
Now, why would you want to issue threats to the think tank? Wait a minute, I think I might have something here. Sounds like you built the Robo-Scorpions and issued threats to keep the think tank occupied.
Did I? Maybe I did. Can't have them leaving. Some reason for it. Ethics or, conscience? You and your brain are quite alike. I'm sure it knows the reasons better than I do.
Nothing you've told me has added up. Your plan, even your name, Mobius.
Dr. Mobius. Rather catchy, isn't it? It's my name, and my new name overwrote the old one. This name's as real as you or I, although I believe your brain expressed similar incredulity at the nature of such an appellation. Someone's been watching too many old-world science fiction movies, it said. I believe it meant me. I must admit I have a vulnerability for holotape fantasies of planets and robots and all that is forbidden. As for the name I was born with, Like the think tank, we were all reprogrammed to forget them, take on new names. It enforces the recursion loop in our perception programming.
With this, Dr. Mobius is referring to the 1956 science fiction film Forbidden Planet. He gets the forbidden from his zone and dome from the Forbidden Planet, and he said that he renamed himself. Dr. Mobius wasn't his original name. He named himself after one of the characters from Forbidden Planet, aptly named Dr. Edward Morbius.
When you reach the Forbidden Planet, you will meet Dr. Morbius, played by Walter Pidgeon. The Doctor is sole owner of this fabulous world.
Obsidian even modeled the pre-war Mobius off of the one we find from the movie. And incidentally, Forbidden Planet was the inspiration for the design of the Protectron. In the movie, we find a robot named Robbie the Robot. His shape is now iconic, providing the inspiration for the Protectron. But in addition to changing his own name to Dr. Mobius, he just said that he changed the names of all of the other scientists as well, saying that it enforces a recursion loop in their perception programming. We can elaborate further on this by passing a 50 science check. You reprogram their names as part of a recursion loop? What, to trap their processors?
Now, trap is a rather harsh word, like excrement. Not an inappropriate word, but still rather harsh. But, yes, I did take some liberties with their programming. It's all right, they don't remember. I certainly didn't until you said trap, and then I said excrement, and then...
Right. Sounds like this guy is just as off as the other scientists. Well, why did you trap them to begin with?
The radar fence to keep the think tank hemmed in wasn't really enough. They keep testing things. They would have found a way to disarm it. I suspect I have Plan 9s in place, but I may have coded myself to forget them, just in case. They're probably very dangerous, lethal, or worse. So I had to do something else to keep them occupied here, or as you like to say, trapped. I prefer to have several Plan 9s in case the 7s fail.
So that was part of the Wild Wasteland trait, referencing the film Plan 9 from Outer Space. His original dialogue was to say that he probably has Plan Cs in place. Changing their names was his Plan B. It's likely that the radar fence was Plan A. He's just saying that he probably had a Plan C lying around in case both the radar fence and the name change failed to keep the robots here in Big Mountain. We can pass an intelligence check of 7 to say, Klein, Mobius, zeros in a circle, 8's an infinity symbol. They're all loops, I get it.
Oh, you figured it out. No pun intended.
So each of these scientists was named after the shape Mobius used to give them recursive programming. 8 and 0 are self-explanatory, but Klein is a reference to the Klein bottle. According to Wikipedia, the Klein bottle is a one-sided surface which, if traveled upon, could be followed back to the point of origin, essentially making an eternal loop. And Mobius is named after the Mobius strip. We've seen these before. It's a surface with only one side and only one boundary. The unique thing about it is that if you were to travel on a Mobius strip, you would eventually return back to the exact point where you started, but you would have walked on both sides of the strip without ever crossing the boundary of the strip. Now, Dr. Boris's name is short for Orborus, and Orborus is a symbol found in a lot of ancient documents of a dragon or serpent eating its own tail. It's found in ancient Egyptian iconography. It's even found in Norse mythology. One of Loki's 3 children was named Jormungandr, and I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of that, but he was a serpent who was so large that he could encircle the whole earth and grasp his own tail in his mouth. He was an Ouroboros, and like the other scientists, a never-ending loop. Dr. Dala is short for mandala, which is a Sanskrit word meaning circle. While today, mandala refers to any sort of diagram, chart, or pattern that can metaphysically or symbolically represent the cosmos, originally it simply meant circle. Anyway, now that we know why the think tank scientists have the names they do, we can encourage Dr. Mobius to keep going. We want to hear the rest of what he has to say.
Dr. O, which is actually not his real name multiplied, since you can't multiply his real name in the first place. Ouroboros, Klein, they have all forgotten themselves. And not only themselves, but the world, sense of time and history. All that is left is what's here. I reprogrammed their chronometers, geometers, and cartography programs. This is now their world, here, Big Mountain. It was a merciful lobotomy, really, thinking back. They were my friends, but sometimes they would take things too far. And the world isn't ready for that kind of too-far thing-taking. That's my professional opinion, anyway. And I am told I was once quite professional.
Well, I can see why Mobius would think that they would take things too far after everything we've learned about the Night Stalkers, the Cazadors, American High, Boomtown, Little Yang Z, the explosive shock collars. Yeah, I can see why Dr. Mobius wanted to stop them. We can say, still, that's kind of an asshole thing to do to your friends.
Is it? I suppose it is. But really, they started the whole excrement hole behavior loop in the first place.
Or we can pass an intelligence check of 7 to say, one minor detail, but a snake devouring its own tail is an Ouroboros, not an Ouroboros.
Really? It is so unlike me to make an error in anything I do.
Okay, so you effectively lobotomized the think tank by giving them recursive programming, but why then terrorize them?
Well, it's simple. Despite their many failings, they are rather bright. They are the think tank for a reason. That I didn't change. Without something to distract them, make them afraid, they would simply deduce what had happened. And when they start deucing it up, then you came along, the final variable solved. They saw that their world was larger than they perceived. Bacteria, finally able to see its host.
But that doesn't make sense. There have been other visitors. Why am I different?
There have been other visitors to make them doubt their perceptions, but you are the one who dialed back their monitor micro-magnifiers. You were irrefutable proof that there was a world outside. And then there was the whole brain fiasco, which forced me to take steps. See, your brain had a special kind of wrinkle, a uniquity that they had never thought to try in all their countless escape attempts.
We can then pass a perception, medicine, or guns check. He has the same response. My brain had a unique wrinkle? What do you mean? Oh, wait. Are you talking about my scar? The only wrinkle my brain has is the one that the bullet made when I was shot in the head.
Yes, very good. I should have mentats ingest you instead of the other way around. Mentats. In any event, you showed up at the think tank, and because you had suffered a cranial injury in just the right place, bullets in the head are usually much more fatal, and yours was a light case of bullet headitis. But it was enough for the autodoc in the sink to change its programming to fix the problem, and the brain extraction technology for once worked. That gave the think tank the knowledge its brains couldn't possess. With that knowledge, the procedure can be reversed. If they obtain that procedural data, they can use it to mush and modify their cranial selves into hosts to slip past the radar fence. I'm sure of it. And once they're off the reservation...
At last it's starting to come together. The radar fence keeps them in Big Mountain. And until this time, the Autodoc was unable to reverse a lobotomy, but it had to reprogram itself to accommodate the scar on our brain, and this reprogramming allows the Autodoc to now reverse the procedure. With this ability, the think tank brains could put their own brains into hosts that could escape the crater. And if they could do that, they could reach the Mojave. we can pass an intelligence check of 7 to say, Klein said they had the idea to get the 3 technologies after your interrupting broadcast. Coincidence?
I consider coincidence to be profanity, along with the words astrology, herbal tea, and luck. So watch it, potty mouth. My threat broadcast is designed to instill and install fear, and along with the emotional download, other data rides the fear carrier wave. It prompted them to focus on retrieving those technologies and bring them to attack me. And coincidentally, pardon my language, all those technologies are needed to put a brain, your brain, back into its skull properly.
Wait, these technologies can put my brain back in my body? What exactly is each of their purposes?
The X2 antenna can be used to focus your alpha wave frequency thought patterns. The sneaky suit? Why, it houses a cardiac regulator. And the sonic sound wave projecto emitter was never intended as a weapon. It was a medicinal vertebrae pulse desensitizer. In short, brains, a heart, and courage. Spine. I think there was a story once where a band of murderous thugs sought these things. They had them all the time in the story. Didn't stop them from murdering to get them. And it won't stop the think tank either.
Whoa, wait a minute. Has this entire DLC been an elaborate Wizard of Oz reference? Scarecrow brain, lion spine, Tin Man heart? Well, did you use your threatening broadcasts to transmit any other data?
Yes, my overly aggressive cammed-up broadcast was designed to keep reinforcing the forget, fear, rinse, and repeat program. Oh, and the get me the things to castrate your only possible escape attempt. But I couldn't delete you or your arrival any more than I could the other visitors. Only so much science can do when you started talking to them. You're really quite difficult to ignore, you know. It's because you're, well, rather intriguing, if you'll forgive an old brain for saying so.
But Mobius, the think tank downloaded the schematics from each item. They don't need the items anymore. They can now rebuild them.
Oh, that means my plan is a total failure. That is unfortunate. Oh well, at least I tried.
Oh, no. So if these brains ever figure this out and realize they can now put their brains into bodies, they can escape the crater and do all of the horrible things they did here to the Mojave. Now we have to do something about this. Look, in order to take care of this mess you've made, Dr. Mobius, I need my brain back.
Do you? You seem fine without it. And does it even want to go back with you? Maybe you should ask it. It's quite independent, has all manner of opinions. Tell you what, I'll leave it up to your brain. If it wants to go, then fine. If not, well, you should respect its wishes.
All right, well, time for me to go. Goodbye, Mobius.
Indeed. The goodbye part of our little chat, then. Goodbye. Please mind the equations on the floor.
Now, we can't always end things violently. Instead of chatting with the guy, we can start out by saying, "Enough! I'm here to kill you."
Oh, intriguing. I've never been killed before. Although, after that time I got that phlegmy discharge in my biogel, I wished I had been. Well, if there's going to be killing, I defer to your expertise in this matter. How should we begin? Engineering viruses? Canceratic beams? Atomics? Electrocutioning? Or should I summon my minions? Yes, my minions.
Oh, whichever way you want to be killed is fine by me.
How gracious of you. A mannerly killing.
What minions?
Whoa, have they not constructed themselves yet? That's a bit premature of me. The robo-scorpions, of course. They can assemble themselves from floor panels and parts scattered about. Quite inventive. Never really know when they might suddenly appear.
Oh, well, I'll trash them like I did your giant piece of junk downstairs.
Oh, now you've done it. I feel a twinge of regret over that little mistake I left on. Minions, destroy this intruder! Or perhaps make it more dramatic. Minions, to me! Oh yes, that's quite a bit better.
With that, Dr. Mobius shimmers away. He apparently activates a stealth boy, making it impossible to target him in VATS. He attacks us with a big mind blast, similar to a robo-brain, and it does a devastating amount of damage. But the real tricky part about this battle is that he summons a slew of robo-scorpions. Robo-scorpions are tricky by themselves, but along with Dr. Mobius peppering us with his mental attacks, this can prove for a challenging fight. The K9000 does pretty well against Dr. Mobius, so I managed to succeed by killing Mobius with the K9000 and then pulling out Elijah's jury-rigged Tesla cannon to finish off the rest of the robo-scorpions. But it's not necessary to kill Mobius. He does not stand in the way of us talking with our brain. But Dr. Mobius seems to think of our brain as its own sentient entity. He said that he's been having wonderful conversations with our brain and that we should respect its decisions. But it's our brain, right? It should do what we say, shouldn't it? In tomorrow's episode, we will release our brain from its brain tank and either leave it alone or convince it to come back with us. And if you thought talking with Dr. Mobius was baffling, wait until we have a chat with our brain. I publish a new video 6 days a week, so if you don't want to miss tomorrow's episode, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. I have 6 new shirts in the shop, folks. As we begin to wrap up this series on Old World Blues, I thought it would be fitting that we celebrate with a bunch of our favorite robots from this series. We have Dr. O saying, "Vivisect me, please." Dr. 8 with some gentle sonjaculating. Dr. Dalla saying, "Ooh." Dr. Klein saying, "Get your act together. You're making us look like a collection of round earthers." Dr. Mobius saying, "I do so love custard." Or was it mustard? And Dr. Boris saying, "Do-dee-do." Do you hear that? It is my trumpet of victoryness. What are you gonna do now, Richie Marcus? This is one of his lines while exploring the high school, one of my favorites. I have all of these shirts in my shop right now. You can find a link to my shop in the description below, or you can click here. The shirts come in a wide range of sizes and colors, and I've even got some products other than shirts, like mugs. If you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, with episode 14.